friends, what is up and welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell from the title of today's video, yes, we are doing another book haul. I cannot be stopped. A lot of these are from the library, some of these are from you, and a bunch of them are actually from a library sale. So I did get everything pretty cheap or free, but I did want to sit down and talk to you guys about them because I'm always interested to see what books people are choosing to bring into their lives. A cool thing about me when it comes to library is I will just randomly grab stuff, so you guys get like firsthand experience of I saw this cover, it looked pretty cool, especially with comic books, and then you get kind of like my overall thoughts on them after I do read them. The first books that I got from the library that I want to talk to you guys about are a series that I have been reading. I've been buddy reading them with friends and I'm really excited to continue on with them. One of them I have actually already read as of filming this video, and that would be The Hunger Games. So I have all of them here. I have The Hunger Games, Mockingjay, and Catching Fire. Now I feel like there's a bit of a resurgence coming on because of the fact there's going to be a prequel. So I did agreed to buddy read these with some friends because I've been talking to Bunny about reading these for a really long time, and then when the prequel about Snow came out, she was like, okay, we have to definitely buddy read them now. So I am really excited to continue. I ended up giving the first one 4.5 stars. I just ended up rounding it up to 5 because I loved it so much. So I am really excited, like I said, to continue on with these and see if they hold up as well as the first one did. Now the next couple of books that I have here are actually comic books. Now these are pretty random for me. Like I said, I tend to have a few companies that I really love that I will see and be like, yes, absolutely, I'm going to grab that. And that is usually Image Comics. I think Image writes some of my very favorites, so I did grab a couple from them. The first one that I got is Kaptara, and this is about a research mission that I think goes bad, and a researcher lands on this planet and he is kind of stuck there. And the cool thing about this planet is there are actually like these cat beasts that live there. They're like aliens. I don't know a whole lot about this because I don't really want to know, but what really caught my eye is actually the art style. I think it's really cool. It's definitely very different from what I normally read, or even like the content of it feels very different from what I normally read, but I think I'm going to like it. I will let you guys know what I think of it when I do end up reading it. Hopefully I'm going to get to it in the month of March. I can't believe it's already March. The next ones I got here, I know are about like superhuman people. I don't necessarily know what order these are in though, because one of them is written as a prequel and one of them is the first one of the series. So I'm not necessarily sure which way I should read them, but it is Jupiter's Circle and Jupiter's Legacy. Now the art style for these is not my favorite, but I am excited to read them regardless. I have been rewatching the Netflix show, which I can't remember the name of. I'll put a picture here on the screen. It's one of my favorites, so it actually really bugs me that I can't remember. Oh, Umbrella Academy. I've been rewatching Umbrella Academy and it's got me in the mood for more like people with superhuman abilities, and I think this is going to kind of satisfy that itch for me, which is why I got them, even though, like I said, the art style is definitely not my favorite. It seems very monochromatic, which I tend to really like colorful comics, so we'll see what I think of that. The next one I have here is one that I have seen. I think they made this into a movie. I'm not 100% sure on what it is about, and it is in black and white, but I know it follows a young girl, and I'm not sure if it's like her imagination and what she's imagining and experiencing, like she's changing her normal experiences into something more, you know, like intense, or more fictional in a way. But it's gotten a lot of awards, this comic has, but I'm trying to kind of, you know, keep spoilers away from myself, but it is I Killed Giants. If you have watched this, let me know down below what you thought of it. But I'm excited because, like I said, this comic itself has won a lot of awards, and I know people really enjoyed like the show or movie or whatever they made it into, so I'm excited to see what I think of it. But like I said, it is in black and white, so definitely not my favorite, but the art style overall is still really cool. I do like the general, like the outline of it, even if it doesn't have any color, because like I said, I do prefer a lot of color. The next one that I got here is a series. I have the first 3 volumes of this one, and the reason why I got this is because it's supposed to be more like film noir kind of 70s, and once again, this is by Image. I think every single one of these are, but it is the Fade Out. I have Act 2, Act 3, and Act 1. I guess they're all called the exact same thing. But the reason why I wanted to get this is because this gives me a lot of Mad Men vibes, or like the 40s and 50s, which is some of my favorite time periods. I really like the 40s. I'm really big into history, especially like world history and like war history, and I feel like this kind of gives a little bit of that vibe to me. So we'll see what I think of it, but like I said, I did pick up the first 3 comics. Usually in my library, something happens where I end up grabbing like the first volume of a comic, and it ends up being discontinued. So that's really sad, but hopefully that one isn't, because like I said, there are 3 volumes of it. The next one I got here, I have no idea what this is about. I mean, I have like a little bit of an idea, but this is a horror comic, which is why I ended up grabbing it, and the art style looks really cool. But I do have Glitter Bomb. I have the first and the second volume here. These are intense. Well, this is the first one, sorry. These are intense, but I know this has something to do with a girl who wants to be famous, and she lives in LA, but being famous and like that sense of want becomes something very physical and ends up taking over her life basically, and turns into something very tangible that can hurt her, which sounds really freaking cool to me. And like I said, the art style for this one isn't very colorful, but the overall theme of it really appeals to me, because it's like a crime mystery, I guess. Yeah, it says crime and mystery and horror, and it is for mature readers. So right up Image's alley, I think. I think they write a lot of good stuff like that. The next one I got here is one that I absolutely adore, and I want to buy the entire series once it is finally done, but it'd be the Backstagers Volume 3. Basically what this follows, you guys have heard me talk about, I think, the first and the second one on my channel before, so when I saw the third one, I had to grab it. It follows these young boys who go to an all-boys school, and they are the backstage, or the stage hands of like the theater and musical productions at their school. But in the backstage, there's actually a door that they can travel to, and there are alternate universes. Now, a little bit more happens with that back door, but I don't really want to spoil it for you, especially since we're going on the 3rd volume now. This is very, very colorful, very, very beautiful. There's also intense amounts of representation in here, and it's done very fluidly. There is trans representation about a character, especially in the second one, a character who comes to help at the All Boys Academy, who used to actually go to the All Boys Academy, but following her transition is now at the All Girls School. So I think that's really cool. There's also a couple of gay characters in here, and their like little love story is very cute and adorable. It is not heavy-handed, so if you're looking for something like that in any kind of comics and graphic novels that you're reading, I think this is a good choice. I love the Backstagers. I think it is like a fun, slightly creepy, and very adorable story all at once. And then I have Zodiac Star Force Volume 2. I actually own the first one. I was really interested the first time I read it, but I honestly can't really remember what it's about other than the Star Force. It reminds me a little bit of Sailor Moon. There are girls who have these like secret hidden powers, and they're like in a gang together. I'm actually going to reread the first one when I do read this one, just to give myself a refresher, because I read the first one so long ago, but I do remember really liking it. So I did pick up the second one with the intent to reread the first. And the last comic book that I got, and the last library book I believe that I got, is actually I Hate Fairyland. I don't know anything about this other than it is super colorful, like unicorn vomited everywhere colorful. It is more like mature adult, and I know that people have recommended this to me a lot, considering like when they look at the other kinds of books that I've read, they think this is one that I'll really like. So we'll see what I think of it when I do read it, but so far it seems really cool. Just looking at the art style, it seems very like you did drugs and are imagining everything. And I know there's like a young main character, like she's the main character, and she's like really weird and strange and kind of fucked up, and that sounds right up my alley. So we'll see what I think of it when I do read it. Now, the next stack of books that I have here are actually books that I have either purchased recently from like bookstores. So this is excluding the actual library book sale that I went to. These are gifts from you guys. Some of these are sent to me from publishers, but I did want to show them to you. I am so excited to read this. I literally cannot put into words how excited I am to read this, but I did get Heartstopper Volume 3. I will try to link in the cards up above where I talked about the other volumes of this. If I can't find them, I will link down below the first book in the series. But this is an online web comic that Alice does, and she ended up making it into graphic novels. Now, this one is massive. This one is probably the size of the first two combined, but I absolutely love it. It is a represented story, so it follows Charlie and Nick and their love story, and basically they are bisexual and gay, so there's a little bit of representation for both and a lot of the struggles that happen to both of them. One of them has a very traumatic story. I don't necessarily want to say who, because I don't want people to anticipate it if they do decide to read it, although I don't know many people who aren't reading these at this point, but they are wonderful, and their story is very fluid and very beautiful and sensitive, but also, like I said, it does deal with some pretty heavy topics, but it is kind of cushioned a little bit with how adorable their romance is. So I am really excited to read this one. I'm going to set this aside because I think this is going to be the book that I start the beginning of March off with. I'm considering doing like an actual TBR, like a TBR video. Let me know down below if you'd like to see that, but so far this is like top of my list of books that I need to read in the month of March. The next book I got here is actually a book that I've heard amazing things about, but I don't know a whole lot about it. So people whose reviews I really trust have gushed about this book. And my boyfriend and I were back home in his hometown to visit his parents last weekend. And his stepmom actually was like, hey, I brought this book down. And Rocco was like, that's really funny because Jess keeps seeing that and wanting to read it. And that would be Where the Crawdads Sing. So like I said, this is a book that I don't know a whole lot about. But people who I, like I said, trust or agree with a lot of what they're reading or the things that they really enjoy are books that I've also really enjoyed have gushed about this. So it is top on my list of books that I also want to read in the month of March. So I will be setting this aside, especially so I can get it back to his mom. But I don't know, like, this is one of those books that I feel like will probably ruin me from the reviews that I have seen. If you've read this, let me know down below what you thought of it, because I'm like nervous at the same time. The next book that I have here is a book that is written by two of my favorite men on the internet, and that would be the guys from Good Mythical Morning. So I love Good Mythical Morning. It is like my happy place when I'm having a bad day, or I'm like cleaning, or I'm reading, or I'm trying to go to bed. Basically all the time I will watch their videos because they are cathartic to me in a way. Like, they really calm me down and like recenter me, because it's like something that actually takes my mind, like my attention off of like things that I'm thinking about. So I did end up picking up The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek. This is also on my TBR for the month of March. It's very, very high on the list. This is a book that is sort of inspired by their childhood and things that they experienced, and it does kind of take place, I don't know if it takes place exactly where they grew up, but I know it is heavily, heavily, heavily inspired by where they grew up. They've been best friends pretty much since a very, very, very young age, I think elementary school. So I'm really excited to see, like, knowing from watching them and getting to kind of learn piece by piece about them growing up. I'm excited to see how that sort of influenced the book. So like I said, that's really high on my list of things that I want to read for March. The next book I have here is The Wolf of Oren-Yaro, and this was actually sent to me by Orbit. So I work with a couple of people, Angela and Paula, over at Orbit, and they will send me books randomly they think that I would really like, and this was one of them. And I'm really interested in this because this follows either a queen or a princess. I think she's a queen, and she's trying to save her kingdom, basically. And I don't necessarily know from what, because I like to, especially with Orbit books, I like to go into them blind, because Paula and Angela seem to nail exactly what I'm looking for. But the reason why I'm really excited for this is because obviously she's a badass queen, but she's really disliked. Like, she's hated by her people. So she's trying to save the lives of people who genuinely hate her. And I'm excited to see what I think of it. It is a fantasy novel, and it is very action-packed from what I have heard and from some of the things that I've seen on the back of it. Other than that, I don't really know a whole lot about like who the villains are in this or who she's trying to save who from, but it sounds like something I'm gonna like, so we'll see. Orbit tends to write some of my absolute favorite books ever, so we'll figure it out. The next one I have here is actually Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is the book that we were reading for the bi-monthly book club. If you guys would like to follow us, you should. I don't know if we're doing Goodreads anymore, but it's me, G, Bex, Gavin, Cody, and Jade. Like, we're all reading, and AJ. We're all reading it together. I will list the most recent live up here. I actually wasn't available for it because I was working, but this is the one that got chosen. Don't know anything about it. I know other than it's like an adult fantasy novel, so we'll see what I end up thinking about it. I'm kind of nervous because it's been a while since I liked one of the books we read in the bi-monthly, and it's nice to have an adult fantasy book because I feel like a lot of what we're reading was YA and it didn't really appeal to me. The next book that we have here is My Androgynous Boyfriend, and this is a manga. And the reason I'm really excited to read this is because I love androgyny. I think it is beautiful. As somebody who absolutely loved like David Bowie and Tim Curry growing up, because my mom was a super fans of both of them, or even John Lennon, I feel like really blurred that line too. Well, not really blurred, but tried to blur as much as he could for the time. This is something that really appeals to me because this follows a couple, and the boyfriend of the couple is very androgynous, so like perfect nails, perfect eyebrows, dresses really well, and I'm really interested to see how, because it's a manga, how that's sort of handled and how it's depicted. But even on the back, I mean, look how cute they are. Like, I absolutely love it. So I'm excited to see what I think of it. This is actually a recommendation from Natalie for her manga book club that she's doing, and I know she ended up giving it 4 stars, so hopefully I like it just as much. The next book that I have here was actually sent to me from DC, and DC is doing basically reworks of a lot of their classic stuff, so a little bit more of, I don't know if it's like an extension of the story or if it's a rework completely of each story, but the one they sent me is The Oracle Code, which is about Barbara Gordon, who is a Batgirl. And you guys know I recently read the new Batgirl that they came out with and wanted to know more about Barbara because I've never really read anything by DC, and I'm excited to see, because I've seen all the movies. I love the movies even with Freeze in them, like Mr. Freeze. I love them anyway. And what's his face's suit with the nipples on it. I love those movies. Like Penguin is my favorite character absolutely of all time. And so to see some of the characters that I sort of know rewritten in a different way has been really exciting to me. And the art style for this one is actually pretty good. It's not the best that I've seen, but it's not the worst that I've seen either. But I am excited to get like a little bit more information about characters that I'm sort of aware of, especially you guys have been talking to me about some of them as I've been reading these, like a little bit of their backstory, so that's really cool. The next few books that I have here are all actually written by the same author, and I'm kind of weary about talking about these on here because they are straight smut. But at the same time, I honestly don't care. The first one I have here is Cards of Love by Sierra Simone. So this is The Moon. Basically, this is a really tiny book that I got on Amazon for like $4 or $5. This is a love story about Merlin, and I think there's multiple of these, and I think they kind of create like a larger story, but this is the first one I saw and the one that I ended up picking up. Like I said, it's a love story about Arthur and how he's torn away. I'm torn from like the love of his life, and he dies or she dies or something. There's a lot happening in the story, but it is very short, so we'll see how much she's able to kind of cover in this. But honestly, I read Sierra for the smut. Like we're all according to my analytics, most of the people that watch me are over the age of 18. Most of them are actually around my age, like 26 to 30. So when I talk about things like this, I don't really feel too terrible, but if you are squeamish, just know if you're looking at some of the books that I read, if you're looking at Sierra Simone, very adult. The next one I have here is The Waking of Ivy Leavold. She is left destitute by her brother's death. She's taken in by her cousin's brooding, tortured widower, Julian Markham. Basically, I believe this is a bit of like an S&M kind of dominating smut, which I'm a big fan of. When it comes to the smut that I read, that is the kind that I actually prefer. Like, we're just being honest. Like, I like the cute stuff, you know, like the YA kind of romance stuff for like the warm and fuzzies, but when I want to like read smut, this is the kind that I want to read. It's the most interesting to me for some reason, which brings me to the next book that I have, which is one that I've already read by her. I grabbed this one, but I didn't grab the second one because I want to see how the third one is received, but it'd be A Lesson in Thorns. Like I said, I did already read this one. I read this one and Feast of Sparks. Feast of Sparks, I gave this 5 stars, gushed about it in my 2019 favorites. And then Feast of Sparks, I put in my worst books of 2019 because I gave it 1 star because there is nods to incest in it. And I was like, whoa, like it felt a lot like you were being duped by her. So I was very torn about whether or not I was going to continue with the series, but I love this book. Like, by itself, I would read this. Like, I'm already currently like in the middle of rereading it again. But I didn't know if I wanted to pick up the second one because I don't know if I want to own them all because I don't know how I feel about this like story anymore, but I do really like the first one, so I did end up grabbing a physical copy of it because I realized a lot of like the romance, or not the romance, but the smut that I read, I only have like on my Kindle for some reason. Like, I'm ashamed of it or something. I don't know. The next one I have here is a historical fiction, I believe. Let's see where they live. Oh yeah, okay. So this is We Were the Lucky Ones. My friend Shauna actually ordered this for me for Amazon, or from Amazon, for my birthday. This takes place in 1939, so I'm hoping there's a bit of like war stuff going on because it talks about how the war looms closer, and I know this follows a family. So I've been liking a lot of like familial kind of storytelling recently. I read Summer of 69, which had like a multiple POV family perspective story told over one summer, and I'm hoping this will be something similar to that. I've heard really great things about this as well. If you've read this, let me know. I know this was like all over Amazon, all over bookstores for a while, and I've been wanting it for a really long time, so the fact that she grabbed it means a lot to me. And the next book she actually sent me, I'm also really excited to read, and I have been avoiding spoilers for this book for like basically since it came out, and it would be The Poppy War. This was incredibly popular. Get it? Popular. When it came out, and it's kind of fizzled out since then, but everyone I know that has read it has loved it. And I know it's a bit more, it's like an adult book, like it's an adult fantasy book to start off with, but it also has more adult content in it. So I don't know if it's like necessarily like brutality or murder or war, or, you know, if it's got like trigger warnings for certain things in it. I don't know, but it seems like a book that I'm going to like. Like I said, everyone I know that has read it has loved it. I've yet to see very many like, you know, scathing reviews of this. People either love it or they're kind of like lukewarm about it, but I haven't heard of anybody who didn't like it. If you are one of the people who didn't like it, let me know down below why. I could imagine because of its size and the fact that it's an adult fantasy, maybe it's a little bit slow at times. I don't know. But I am really excited to read it, and I'm so glad that I finally have it in my hands. Now, this next big ass stack that I have here are actually books that I got from the library sale. So these do still have the plastic on them, but these are my books that I ended up purchasing. I like to support the library in any way that I can. If it's paying $10 for all of these, like, so be it. If it's donating books, that is always super helpful. If you can help your library in any way, I strongly encourage it. There's just little ways that you can. So getting into the books that I got, a lot of these are going to be really random. Some of these are books that I've seen talked about, or I recognize the cover and know that I've heard positive things about it, or I've heard something about it in the past and it's always kind of sparked a little bit of a desire to read it. That's a lot of what these are, and I'll kind of go over how I chose which ones as we go through. First one I have here is a book that I'm iffy about, and that would be the Ark Hide by Victoria Schwab. I'm actually surprised that I found this because this is like, I don't know, I guess was like republished or something, but anyway, I don't really know what this is about. I wanted to grab it because one, like $10 for like 15 books or however much I got is super cheap. And I am back and forth on Victoria Schwab. Some of her stuff is a hit for me and some of her stuff is a miss for me. This I'm hoping will be a hit though. We'll just have to see. But I am excited to finally get my hands on it because this is a book that I've kind of seen around and heard talked about and wanted to read it. But I swear to God, if there's like an overtly Slytherin female character in this book, I'm going to set it on fire. Not really, but I'll be really tempted. The next book that I got here is a book that is one of those books that I've seen around that I've heard really great things about. And since I saw it, I was like, okay, well, this is a perfect time to read it. And then be the Book of M. Don't know a whole lot about this. I guess it's about where people's shadows disappear. That's all I know. I remember reading like the first like little bit of it and was like, all right, I'm going to put it down and stop kind of reading what it's about. I don't necessarily know what genre it's in. I don't necessarily know what age group it's in. I just know that I've seen it around everywhere and thought it was time to finally get my hands on it. If you read it, let me know what you thought of it, because hopefully I love it as much as I think I've heard other people say they did. The next one I have here is by an author. I actually had a copy of this for a while and ended up returning it to the library. I don't think it's the same one, but I read another book by the same author that I absolutely loved, and this would be Georgia Peaches and Other Forbidden Fruit. This is, I'm going to assume a representative? Is that the word that I'm looking for here? I think there's gay girls in this, which makes me really excited. Jay is gay. She is like married with her wife and they live in like Maryland or something with their dogs. But I think that her representation for me that she writes into her books are very candid and I think kind of hard. So the first book that I read from her, which I can't remember the name of, I'll put a picture here for you guys, follows a main character who you get to kind of experience her relationship backwards. So the story starts with you finding out that her girlfriend has died and she becomes very angry. And throughout the story, you get to kind of learn how they fell in love and sort of how the main character, Jessica, deals with her anger and her sadness. And I felt like that book was really poignant and I've recommended it to a lot of people. I know it's got birds in the title. I don't know why I can't remember the name of it. I'm really scatterbrained today. I didn't sleep a whole lot, so please forgive me, but I wanted to see how this one stacks up with that. I'm trying not to kind of research what this is. I do know that it does have a little bit of like religion in it, and that plays like a really pivotal role in it, so we'll see what I think of it, because I often find books like that very frustrating for some reason. Like when there's gay represented characters and religion thrown in together, I feel like it's really hard for me to kind of read. The next book I have here, is another familial like story, but I don't know a whole lot about it other than I've heard really good reviews about it, and that'd be The Nest. And I've been wanting this book for a really long time. It's been one of those books that I've had in my cart, or considered getting from the library, or things like that, but never really took the plunge because I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about it. But I know it was really popular when it came out, and like I said, I've been really, really into stories recently that have like families or like family stories, and I think this is exactly what I need right now. We'll see. The next book that I have here is The Violet Hour, and it's by Katie Roify. I don't know how to say her name. Basically, she interviews a bunch of people when, like, right before they are about to die, and what their biggest regrets are, what are things they wish they would have changed, what are things they were really happy that they got to experience, just basically the end of their lives and how they wish maybe they would have lived, or how they're proud of the way that they did live. And this is something that I've been kind of battling within myself recently. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see that, because this is a writer writing about writers, and the writers telling their own stories. So it seems like it's going to be really cool. I do like experiencing, like, one of my favorite things to do is just to talk to strangers and like kind of learn about their lives. And I think that this book is going to offer like a really interesting perspective in that way. Oh, speaking of the summer of '69, I ended up picking up this book because I find Ellen's books very... what's the word? They're not like super captivating in the sense of like, I don't necessarily think the story being told is like the most unique thing that's ever been told, but I think she has a way of writing where you're just constantly engaged, and it's like it's like watching a good TV show. Maybe not necessarily your most favorite TV show, but a good TV show that you are really enjoying, and you can spend like an afternoon like binging a show that you like, and that would be the perfect couple. So this is a book that I've seen at like half price. Like I said, I did recently read Summer of '69 and did really enjoy it. I think I gave it 3.5, so I ended up rounding it up to 4 stars. So a very interesting story, but not necessarily, like I said, the most crazy new kind of story that I've ever heard. But I do like her writing style as well. I think it is very easy to read and very easy to follow along, and it does make you want to keep reading. I'm hoping this book has just like a little bit more, maybe. We'll see. The next book that I have here is a book that I know was, I don't want to say super popular, but one of those books that people were like, you should definitely read, or at least his first book was, and that'd be 1,000 Splendid Suns. He also wrote The Kite Runner, Kala Diz. And I think I had The Kite Runner, or maybe I saw the movie or something, and I thought it was going to be like too much for me to read at the time. So I did want to grab this while I was there. This is a book that, once again, I don't really want to know a whole lot about, because it seems like something that is going to be really hard hitting, and I want to kind of experience it as I read it. If you've read this, let me know down below what you thought of it, or if you think maybe I should read The Kite Runner, even though I thought it was going to be like too hard for me to read at the time. The next book I have here is a random one-off Star Wars book, and it would be the Star Wars Crucible. I saw this and was like, hey, I can add that to my Star Wars collection. It's basically a different story about Han, Leia, and Luke, and like an add-on story. I don't think it really adds anything to the world, although really nothing is canon anymore, so who the fuck cares? But I thought it'd be fun to kind of just like get to experience my babies in like a new way, so I did end up grabbing this. I don't really want to know what it's about, but also, can we talk about how sick the artwork on the back of this is? I don't know. Luke just looks like such a badass. And they're older in it, so I want to know kind of what that's about. The next book I got here is a middle grade book, and I didn't really want to know a whole lot about it, but it says Graverobbing is a messy business, a bad business. And like I said, this is like a middle grade teen book, and it's The Accidental Afterlife of Thomas Marsden. So I don't really know a whole lot about what happens. I have a couple of friends who really love middle grade books, and I'm hoping I'll end up really liking them. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I'll get that. Like, that seems fun. Like, a boy goes and robs graves, and then something fucked up happens to him. Oh my god, totally something I'm going to love. So I'll let you guys know. I will report back on what I think of this, because that's going to be in my March TBR as well. The next book that I have here is one that I'm kind of scared to read because I don't necessarily know what I'm going to think of it, but it is The Fracking King by James Browning. It says, a striking debut novel about boarding school, hardcore Scrabble, and fracking, a new kind of environmental novel by an important voice in the debate about fracking in America. So it follows like a boarding school, if I'm not mistaken, and their tap water catches on fire. And I feel like this is, like I said, something that is important to address, because fracking is something that we are constantly doing that is incredibly terrible for our environment and something that we need to be paying attention to. So having this book, I'm hoping I'll gain a little bit of insight, because like it said, the author is a voice on the actual environmental impacts of fracking. So I'm hoping with that perspective, I'll be able to learn something from it. And it was like, if you think about it, it was like 15 cents. The next books that I have here are actually 2 books, and I never read anything by this author, but my roommate kind of accidentally read one of these and was like, there's a lot more romance in it than I thought there was going to be. But I have Nora Roberts' Year One, and then Of Blood and Bone, the book that shook fucking book Twitter. But like I said, I've never read anything by Nora Roberts, so I was like, you know what, they got the first 2. I think the second one just came out. I'm going to go ahead and grab them and see what I think, because people go on and on about how wonderful an author Nora Roberts is, and I'm sorely missing out. So I thought I would grab these. I don't know a whole lot about what they're about. My roommate said he liked them other than like the mass amounts of romance, but it's Nora Roberts. Like that's, I think, primarily what she writes. So it'll be fun to kind of experience that and see what I think of it. All right, guys. So those are all the books that I've gotten over the last month and a half. Yeah, about a month and a half. I need to stop. I've actually like cut myself off from buying books. I canceled my book of the month. I've been like really trying not to. And I think like telling myself I can't buy more made me want to buy more. And then I was like, oh, I ended up at the book library sale because me and Rocco were trying to track down Girl Scout cookies for like the entire weekend, and we found some, and they were outside the Upper Arlington Public Library, and of course they had the book sale sign. Like this haul would have been so much smaller if I didn't go there, but can't pass up a good book deal. I hope you guys liked this. Let me know down below the last book you hauled or the last book you unhauled, and let me know why you got it or why you got rid of it. I'd be really interested to know. But I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video, and I promise it will not be another book haul.